All right, there we go. Getting everything ready. We're going to start here in just a minute. Just making sure I've got my figs, my bases, the new figs, the basing I want to discuss, my glue. All right, so we should be good to go to get started. Let me just clean this brush, put it away. Yeah. We're not going to be doing any painting, but I am going to be doing some other things on this stream. I've got quite a bit I want to discuss. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. It's a couple of minutes early, but that's okay. I think everybody will understand. Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming back at you with some Wargaming in miniature. All right, so this video is Wargaming Weekly. We do it weekly. The date fluctuates based on my wife's schedule, which she just got a new class, which luckily is still on Wednesdays. Okay. Interesting. Hold on. Okay, I'm going through some of my 30 by 40s that I use for artillery. And it looks like I had used them for artillery, or at least those, in the past. And they still had a little glue residue on them. Because I think I glued some cannons down to some bases. And then later on, I popped them off. Because I don't remember why. But I remember I popped them off. Alright guys, so I've got like 15 million different things that I want to discuss today and I want to work on. These are all British gun crews that I've got on the table. And I got the British guns right here. Actually, one of them is Hanoverian. And maybe a couple of them are KGL. I don't remember. But these are all the Allied gun crews that I have remaining. The reason why I was able to finish them is because if you remember last week, I thought I was getting a package on Wednesday when in fact it came in Thursday, which is no big deal. But I got my Old Glory order in Thursday and I said, okay, now's a good time to finish my artillery because I was waiting for those British foot crewmen, right? Because I had some, I just didn't have enough to do the all the batteries that I wanted to do. So I got that in, and then like 2 days later, I got in my minifig order. So they came in pretty close together, which is pretty cool. And I had already started on the gun crews before the minifigs got here. The only concern I have, or only thing I was thinking about, was the minifigs. I had ordered some Dutch, Belgian, and some Dutch, Belgian, and Brunswick crew for their limbers, right? And so those are going to be done on a future day. I had also received the rocket artillery battery, which is not at Quatre Bras. That's not a problem. I now realize I probably needed to get a second one of these because of the way I'm doing artillery batteries, right? Unless the rockets were a half battery. If that's, I'm going to have to research that. If it was, like if it was only 4 or 5 rocket launchers, then I'll make it a half battery. And but if it's like 6 to 8, in that case, I'm going to need 2 bases, and then that means I'll need a second pack, right? I didn't realize that. I wasn't thinking that when I ordered it. When I ordered it, I was thinking, oh, battery, right? But I'm doing batteries as 2 guns, standard battery. Okay, I also got in my Brunswick Generals, so I can replace those British Generals with Brunswick. And then I've got a bag of Peninsula infantry from the British, because they've got the stovepipes, and I'm going to get my Hanover infantry out and put these where they belong in my Hanover infantry. Okay, I didn't mean to talk about the minifig order that I just got in, but since it flowed into the conversation, I went ahead and did that. That is out of the way. Don't have to talk about those anymore. Okay. All right, so let me pop these off of their Apapasecolio sticks. Okay, I got some figures in here. These are finished figures, and for my Marshals and Generals game, I want to talk about the different base configurations. That was basically why it says on the heading basing again, or bases again. Yeah, I was going through I need to put my magnifiers on. There we go. Now each one of these popsicle sticks is a battery. I might be screaming at you guys, and I apologize. Now the reason why basically, how do I say this? The gun crew figures come in a variety of poses, right? There's like 8 to 10 different poses. So what I did was what I tried to do was give each battery a unique set of poses. Or a unique combination of poses. Because the poses overlap between batteries. Obviously, they would. That's a no-brainer. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't want to get these mixed up. As in, I took the extra effort to split them up by pose. So I don't want to. Okay, these are all pulling their plates off. That's good. Okay. Or some are not. Okay. This one's going to be pretty easy because this is the only battery of horse artillery that I've got. Now I've noticed that 100%, pretty much 100% of all the batteries are 9-pounders, 5 9-pounders, and 1 howitzer, right? So it's a 5-to-1 ratio when it comes to howitzers to 9-pounders, or howitzers to 9-pounders. So I decided to do 10 guns and 2 howitzers, because that would get me a 5-to-1, right? Guns to howitzers. Now these guys all have got to be cleaned up, their bases, because it looks like some of this 3M double-sided tape is tearing, or some sticky part of it is being left with the figure. So that'll have to be cleaned off. I'm going to do that here in once I get them all peeled. They stink just a little bit because I just finished spraying them with maybe a half hour ago. I sprayed them with dull coat. I was going to do all of this last night. But time ran out. And I washed them, and I sat there and I was watching the wash dry, and I was like, okay, I can't just spray them with dull coat while the wash is still drying. For one thing, it'll ruin the wash and it'll ruin the dull coat, because the wash has moisture in it, and if a lot of moisture gets onto your dull coat, it'll cause it to turn white. Right? It'll give you like a milky or like a dusty coating, and I didn't want that, obviously. Now, I'm not going to have these guys finished by the end of the video, I can tell you that. Because what steps are left? Right, I've got a few steps. I have to glue them to their bases along with their gun. And then I got to allow that to dry. And then I have to put the texture on the bases. Allow that to dry. Doesn't take very long to dry. With 12 guns, maybe 30 minutes, it'll be dry. And then put the flock on there. And allow it to dry. Now, between the texturing, because the figures will be glued sturdy on their bases, between the texturing and the flocking, there's a little bit of a dry time, right? So I'm going to take advantage of that dry time and do a little highlight on their blue jackets. And kind of just take a gander at the entire figure as a whole and just see if there is anything I might have missed. But usually I do that before I do the washing. Well, not usually. I do that before I do washing. So I don't think there would be anything I missed, but sometimes something sneaks through. But I will be doing highlighting, and in that process, I'll see if I missed something. You know, like a canteen that might have been covered by an arm, or a bayonet sheath maybe I didn't hit with the color, or something, you know. I use those as examples because last night when I was double checking the figs, I saw a couple of canteens I missed and a couple of bayonets. Okay, this will completely, these figures here will completely finish my Allied artillery. Not all the limbers, right? Because I still need the Dutch Belgian and the Brunswick limbers. But the guns themselves will all be finished. Because I've already done the Dutch guns and the Brunswick guns. These are just the UK, the Hanover, and the KGL. Which, because they all get their uniforms from the same guy, all their uniforms are exactly the same. So it doesn't matter which one of these lots I make as the Hanover or the KGL. Now the one battery horse artillery, now that looks different. They got weird Tarleton helmets and sabers. And they pretty much have the same uniform. They are the KGL, but the KGL horse, the UK horse, they're the same. Okay, what's going on with this guy? Oh, come on. My fingers. Okay. He didn't want to stand up. He was leaning too far forward. So I just applied a little pressure to the figure and pushed back on his base, and now he's standing upright. Motivated him. Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's going to take me a minute to clear this off. I mean, literally, it's going to take me a couple of minutes. So what I'm going to do for you guys, and this is something I do want to talk about, but I'm going to turn on a slideshow for you on the screen. And these are some figures I just recently finished. I've been busy since last Wednesday. I finished a lot of figures. I finished 2 battalions of Napoleonic figures, which we're going to discuss those after I start these artillery guns, because there's something special about them. And then I also finished a bunch of World War II figures and even a fantasy figure. So let's go ahead. I'm going to turn on a slideshow wherever it is. Here it is. All right, so that right there is, here, I might be able to make that bigger. Hang on. All right, that was the Panzerbusch 41 2.8 centimeter anti-tank gun from the Fallschirmjägers, right? And I pulled out my squadron publication Fallschirmjäger book, and I saw that there is a set of basically a Fallschirmjäger genre, I guess, I don't know, year, that I have never painted, and that was the Crete invasion, where the Fallschirmjägers jumped into Crete and all that. So I painted these guys as they would have looked going into Crete. These are Perry miniatures. You're going to get, with each different figure that I put up, you're probably going to get 12 photos. And then it's going to cycle to another set of figures. Because the way I do it is I will take something I'm going to sell on eBay, and I will take 12 photos so that when I upload it to YouTube, I can attach those 12 photos. And there's the medium mortar, also Perry. I think all my Fallschirmjägers are Perry. I think. Perry has a pretty extensive Fallschirmjäger line. And I think I had a handful of bags or boxes, or however he does it, I don't remember. Boxes. And decided it was a good time for me to go ahead and finish them. Because I've had them sitting on the shelf for probably a year. Basically, I'm going through a lot of my back inventory and finishing them up, clearing them out. I loved painting those Fallschirmjägers. They were different. You know, it was something a little different than what I normally paint. You'll also notice on my Fallschirmjägers, I use the Vallejo light tone. I didn't use my medium or dark. I use light tone. And I think Crete was a little bit before the FG-42, I think. So almost everybody would have a Kar 98. There would be no Panzerfausts, right? There would only be anti-tank rifles, which there is a light mortar. Yep, light mortar. The big team bases, you know, anything with 2 or more figures mounted on a single base, those are all mounted on Litco. Wait a second. That's not a Litco. It is a wooden round base, but I think I got that at the hobby store. I don't think I got that from Litco. I think they're 60 millimeters. Yeah, that's the light mortar. I'm going to let that play while I talk in the background. Because I'm actually almost finished cleaning the base bottoms of all these crew members. What do we got next? Oh, still the light mortar. 12 photos. These are all for sale on eBay right now. I've already uploaded them. And there is a medium machine gun team. So my YouTube channel, you can actually reach it by typing youtube.com. I think it's /at Mr. Everything. Not Mr. Everything, what am I saying? At Wargaming in Miniature. I do believe. It's a new thing. They're calling it a handle. I can pretty much have an unlimited number of handles. I could have Mr. Everything. I could have Wargaming in Miniature. I could have my email. I could have my my gamer tag. But there's really only... I just call myself Mr. Everything everywhere. And I used to call myself Akodo Derek. Because I was really big into a card game called Legend of the Five Rings. I had even considered, believe this or not, I mean, this is a weird belief, I thought about getting a tattoo. And I'm glad I didn't, because that game is a thing of the past. You know, but young minds, you never know. Young minds. I still love that game. It's called Legend of the Five Rings. My favorite faction to play was the Lion faction. And the Lions had a family. Every clan, because it's an Oriental, based game. Like, it uses Chinese, Japanese mythology in the game. You have samurai that run around and perform magical... you have... what do they call them? Shugenja, which are the... like... magical... like wizards, if you want to call them that. And you also have monsters and goblins and all kinds of like Shadowlands creatures and stuff. But every family in the base game, it expanded as years went on. But every family had every clan had 3 families. And one of the families was the Akodo family. And that's where I got my Akodo Derek. Because they were more strategists. There was another family called the Matsu. And they were barbarian. They were more like berserkers. And then there's the Kitsu. Not Kitsune, because that's the animal creatures. Kitsu, oh man, I'm testing my L5R knowledge. They were kind of like the Shugenja of the Lion family. Or I should say Lion clan. And I like the idea of the Okotos best. You know, they used their brains as well as... Oh, and they were good duelists as well. They... On a one-to-one duel, they were actually pretty good. Not as good as the Crane clan. Cranes probably had the best duelists. And the Phoenix had some pretty good duelists. Everybody had good duelists, I guess. But that was kind of the Cranes thing. That was their name to fame, was dueling. The Phoenix name to fame was their magic. The Lions' name to fame was their strategists. There was actually a couple other clans. There was the Unicorn, which guess what their strength was? Horses. And then there was a Shadowlands, which is like an evil clan. I think I'm missing one. Well, I know there's Mantis, but that was not really there. There's also the Imperial family, which is not of any individual clan. Well, any clan could be the emperor kind of deal. I think you had to fight for it. I don't remember. I was huge into that game, and every 6 months to a year, they would update the story and release a card set that reflected the story and the universe. They would have tournaments that I would go to that the Kotais or whatever, and they would have judges not to make rulings of what happened in the games. There were those judges as well, but these were special judges that documented what happened in the tourney, and then they would turn that in, they would write that into their story. You know, like if this one warrior, like if a player had this one card in his deck that just saved the day, they would write that into the story about how that character, because all the cards represented characters in their story, how he saved the day. And that's the main reason why I love that card game, because of the fan input. Even though it might not have been directly like, hey, do this, do that, but by participating in these tournaments and making those I know we didn't go all the way around. Have we gone all the way around with these photos? No. Have I been talking that long? Because that's the Fallschirmjäger light mortar, right? That's where, and then it goes to the machine gun next or something. Okay. It's supposed to loop, but it's supposed to loop the entire... Okay, maybe there's too many pictures. I'm going to see where this loop's at. Or I could just manually show them to you. Because I think there's a limit to the slideshow. Okay, well these are all cleared off. I need to organize them. Okay, so let's get rid of the slideshow. Where are you at, slideshow? Okay. So I'm going to bring something completely different up. I'm going to bring my center display. Okay, so I've got okay, that's for figures. This is for my computer. The glasses are actually different magnifications. Okay, I've got my 6 batteries set up right there. Each battery has 2 guns, and each gun has 3 figures as crew. So there's basically 6 crew is a whole battery. So those are ready to go. Okay, so before we go any further, any further ado, as Kim would say, I'm going to scroll over here, and you can see I've got this Sandham foot. Coolman is horse, and you notice how they're all 9-pounders. They're all 9-pounders, but basically they're okay. Cleves is a foot KGL. Then there's a Hanover foot. Okay, the reason why I'm even looking is because I've got 2 6-pounders in this lot, and I have 2 artillery pieces in. What am I saying? Artillery. I mean howitzers, and then I've got 8 9-pounders. Right, so I'm going to put a 9-pounder in every battery. That's just the way it goes, right? So, but that's only 6, because I only got 6 batteries here. Even the horse. Now, I've considered, okay, I got 2 9s, 2 6s, and 2 howitzers to kind of allocate to these batteries. Now, if these 2 are Hanover, I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? Because all these figures look exactly the same. But I just kind of want to, except for the horse. The horse is important. So, the horse, I'm thinking 6-pounder. Because even though they're going to fire as 9-pounders, the battery is a 9-pound battery. It doesn't really matter what gun I put in there. They're going to fire as a 9-pound battery. I'm not going to have howitzers have a special chart. I'm not going to have. I would have a 6-pounder have a separate chart, but it's only if it's a 6-pound battery. And by putting the 6-pounder in there, it'll kind of make, to me, I don't know, my mind, it makes me think it's horse, you know? And because it's KGL, I don't know. The Braun, one of those guns, one of those batteries lost all their 9-pounders and had to switch to 6-pounders at Waterloo. I think it's Braun. No, wait. It might be. Okay, so here we go. Let's do a little research on the spot. Okay. Let's go to KGL, foot artillery. That's Cleves. He has 9-pound. And howitzer. I might just give him a howitzer. Okay. I'm just thinking out loud. Okay. Hanover. Foot artillery. Braun. Yep, there we go. Normally he was the 5 9-pounders. He was normally the 5 9-pounders, 1 howitzer, but due to losses, these guns were replaced by 5 6-pounders. So Braun is my Hanover. I think I'm going to give him the other 6-pounder, right, just to kind of flesh it out. The guard, Sandom or whatever, he's with the guard. I think I'm going to give him both the, I'm going to give him both the 9-pounders. Okay. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of the center display. All right. So I got the guns and the crew allocated. Perfect. Now the question is, how do I organize these? Okay. Start with these guys. Now I've been pulling the guns all the way to the back. Well, for one reason, it'll look better when it's limbered, but also I could probably do it this way. Or I could do it this way, it doesn't matter. Okay, on the guns, the carriage is exactly the same size. Now the howitzer is a little bit different, obviously, it's super short. But now I take the crew and I try to figure out where I'm putting these guys. Okay, he looks like he would be pushing the gun. This guy looks like he's rolling the wheels. This guy's lighting the fuse, obviously. This other guy is actually reading a book, so I think I want to put him opposite the guy that's lighting the fuse. And this guy is opening a okay. I like that layout. And I like that layout. So here we go. Lighting the fuse, wheel, ammo. That's the carriage. Pushing on the wheel, standing in front of the carriage, reading a book. Okay. Sorry, this is super exciting. This one is the most tricky. Okay, his base is actually away from where he's grabbing. Okay. That will definitely work as my first battery. Get them out of the way. Okay. Now this is the horse. Horse battery. We got a guy lighting the fuse. Opposite, a guy with a periscope. Whoops. Telescope, not a periscope. A telescope. A periscope, that'd be pretty cool. What do we got here? I think this guy is rolling a wheel. I put the gun off center sometimes so that I could put guys off to the side of the gun, like that guy. Okay. This guy is... Okay. All of these guys... Okay. He looks like he has one of those sticks to move the gun. He's got... I don't know if you just heard my stomach make some noise. Okay, that works on that one. Okay, this entire crew is going to be behind the gun. That's not. Okay, that's fine. Perfectly fine. Okay, I like their setup. Okay. Off center. In the back. In the back. On the side. This one is actually kind of centered. He's back here. He's back here. He's right up there. Okay. And the reason why it's kind of okay to put them off center, in my opinion, I'm measuring from the base when I attack. I'm not measuring from the gun itself or whatever. Let's get you. There we go. Yeah, I don't want him looking straight into this guy's head. He's like, all I see is a big eye, a big head. Okay. I treat every little artillery base as a little diorama. You know, a little action scene. I try to visualize what these crewmen are actually doing and not just gluing figures on bases. I'm like, okay, what is this guy? Why is he there? What's his motivation? Okay. And that's the horse battery. All right, once I get all these glued down, then we'll move on to that next topic. Unfortunately, this is just taking a second, obviously. Okay, now this is a freaking howitzer. Let me put him on that base. Okay. I don't think I need to put the howitzer as far back. I'm going to keep the carriage about the same spot. Now I've got two plungers over here. I'm going to put one with each gun. Here, so far so good. There's a guy leaning on his stick. Here's the guy lighting. Here's the guy with a book. And this is the guy loading. All right, that worked out really good. I like it. Let's make it happen. Okay, there's a guy with a book, guy with a stick, plunger, reload, stick, lighting the fuse. All right, here we go. Yeah, that howitzer was firing off to the side. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, there's a couple of different poses for guys with plungers. So like this guy's got his legs spread apart, where this guy's got his legs together. Also, I think this guy's got a shorter plunger, so I think he should go with either a 6-pounder or a howitzer. It just worked out. Okay, there's the third battery. It's another howitzer. With all these guys. Okay. It might go there, it might not. Not sure about that guy. I'm just not sure about him. Okay. I mean, I could light the howitzer, but I'm not. I'm going to light the gun. Which means the guy with the book is going to be with the howitzer. Maybe he's got some calculations he's got to do. You know what I mean? Because he needs to figure out where the bomb is going to explode, etc. Okay. Whoops. Loader, lighter, plunger, stickman, pose I'm not sure about. It's just a guy standing there with his hands out. I'm like, what are you doing? I thought he was like holding a wheel or something, but nah. What is going on with this dude? All right, there we go. That battery is done. Battery. Now on these Litco bases, this is just something anecdotal. When they cut these bases out, there's usually burn marks on one side of the base. You might be able to see it, you might not. There's burn marks. And then on the other side, it's usually just perfectly clean. So what I tend to do is put the clean side down, put the burn mark up. The reason why that is because I'm going to texture it and flock it and all that anyway, so that's going to disguise that. Plus, that gives me a clear template or clear sheet of wood to write whatever unit it is on the back. Right? Okay. So that's what I always take the wood, I look at it, and I go, okay, it's burnt on that side, that goes up. So now you know my inner thoughts when it comes to the wood Litco bases. Okay, we know he's going there. That's a no-brainer. So that means this guy is going here. That's a no-brainer. This guy is pushing on one of them. This guy is reloading. I'm going to put him right there. I've got 2 plungers. So I could put a plunger back here. I'm going to put a plunger right there. And this guy will steer the thing. Okay. That's how that's going. Talking through it out loud, you know. Alrighty. See how this works. Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect as well. Okay. Looking at that loader, they've got a couple. When I say loader, I mean he's got a shell cartridge in his hand. And it looks like he's either opening it up or getting it ready to slide down into the barrel. Because there's a couple of different ones. One looks like he's just pulled it out of the cartridge box. And another one looks like he's prepared to like drop it into the barrel. So depending on which one you get, might be... you know, determine where I put him. Yeah, that just keeps looking like it wants to shoot to the right. I gotta really... okay, there we go. Oh, okay, there we go. There it is. Okay. Now that was a heavy battery. It's both 9-pounders. Now we're going to pull in the last battery. Okay, burn. Both of these are... oh, no burns. Well, doesn't matter, I guess. Bookish. want stick 2 of these and him. Okay. All right, so the 2 plungers. Let me think about this. If I put the guy loading up front, I'll put the plunger dude in the back. I'll put him up there. And him right there. Maybe can't. Yeah. Okay, that looks good. All right. All right, let's see how this works. Should be very good. Should work. No problem. Yep, that looks good. All right, I got these guns glued together. Okay, it's been an hour. Okay, that's cool. Okay. All right, so I wanted to discuss this with you guys, and it's something that has been on my mind for the last couple of weeks now. Well, maybe 1 week. It hasn't been on my mind that long. Maybe less than a week. Or I would have talked about it last week, obviously. But it has not come to my attention, but yeah, I can say it's come to my attention. Something came to my attention that I thought that I needed to address. I don't know how to. I'm saying this poorly. Something came to my attention in my own mind that I wanted to discuss with you. Maybe I should say it better like that. Okay. Basing. I've been debating on basing for years. Like, what's the best basing convention for my game that I'm planning on writing? I should say that I'm about 1/3 of the way through writing. Okay. Let's start by saying Black Powder got me back into enjoying Black Powder got me back into enjoying playing Napoleonics. I played Napoleon's battles for a number of years, and Napoleon's battles was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was just, it had too many rules, and because of that, the rules could be exploited. And I knew all the loopholes. I knew all the ways to win, and it became less enjoyable because, first of all, I don't play games. Let me rephrase that. I do play games to win. I don't model or paint to win. I put figures on a table and move them around to win. Now, painting and modeling and research and all that just leads up to the climax, the game. And the game became unenjoyable for me because I knew how to win 100% of the time. And okay, let me back up. What I meant to say was I play the game to win, but I want a challenge. I want it to be difficult, or not necessarily difficult, but I want it to be, I want there to be some variety, some thought, some maneuvering, you know. But when you know how to win 100% of the time, I found myself mechanically just pushing figures and rolling dice. And that's why I left Napoleonics. I saw some other games out there that didn't appeal to me. You know, I've always kind of had that Napoleonic urge. And Black Powder, when I stumbled upon Black Powder, it reinvigorated me to want to play Napoleonics again. It is at a completely different level. It's a battalion level and not a brigade level. And I think that by itself, that one thing reinvigorated me to want to play because the battalions were different, right? Okay. And that's one reason why, in my set of rules, I'm setting them up as battalions, because I remember that feeling that I had switching to Black Powder, to a battalion scale game. Okay. So I just wanted to say that. So I decided I'm going to leap it. Now, okay, hold on. I'm playing Black Powder at 40 millimeter bases, right? They're 40 by 40, representing one base with 4 figures, 28 millimeters. So that's pretty big bases, right? They are, you know, fairly large. And I'm thinking, okay, this, I don't mind the scale of the base or whatever, the figures, I was enjoying it. But then I realized I went to play Quatre Bras, which is a super small battle in Napoleonics. It's one corps versus one corps. That is like your basic battle in Napoleonics. And I could not fit it on a 9-foot table. I had to rely on a convention to provide me with a 12-foot table to put Quatre Bras on that table using 40 millimeter bases. And even that, I even had a 12-foot table, and I still was forced to cut off the ends of the battle, right? I had to discard a whole division of French because there just wasn't enough table space. That got my mind thinking. Why don't I play black powder in 15 millimeter, right? I could make the bases smaller. I would have more playing field, right? I really considered that because black powder is an awesome game. But in the process of thinking I was going to do that, they started releasing this game called Epic, right? They had the Epic ACW. And I was thinking, oh, Epic, okay, cool. Well, Epic is not Epic in miniatures. It's not Epic in base sizes. It's Epic in the number of miniatures you have per base. So instead of 4 figures per base, you would have 20 figures per base. But the base is actually 1.5 times longer than a 40 millimeter base. So you're looking at a 60 millimeter base. Yes, it's epic. You got 20 figures on a 60 millimeter base. I'm impressed. But that defeated the whole purpose of me going to 15 millimeter or epic. Epic is 13.5, 14 millimeters. It's closer to 14 millimeters. So if you played with 15 millimeters across from an epic army, it would look the same. But you're not going to put a 15 millimeter figure individually molded. You're not going to get 20 of them on a 60 millimeter base. You're going to get 6, maybe 7, or 8 if you really cram them in there. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do just standard black powder, 15 millimeter, make the bases smaller. And then I thought about it. Why don't I write my own set of rules? Because there are some things in black powder that I don't like. I like 99% of it, but there are a couple things. And then there are some things in this other game. It's a World War II game that I was playing, Battle Group. And I was like, this would translate into Napoleonics like 1 for 1. And it's a great set of rules. So I said, I'm going to write a set of rules that is kind of a hybrid between black powder, battalion scale, small bases, with Battle Group for like their morale and their army morale rules. Right? So I was like, okay. You all know this. If you watched any of my Napoleonic updates, you know this. I've already talked about that. So I decided, I crunched numbers, right? I took miniatures, I put them on bases, I took a lot of different bases, put a lot of different figures, trying to figure out what the best base was for my Napoleonic battalions, right? Okay, and I was thinking 40 millimeters across. Okay, now that doesn't save me any space from the 28 millimeters. Remember, those are 40 millimeters across. But those are also 40 millimeters deep, right? And I could put two bases in, if I did 15 millimeters deep, I could do two bases in a 30 millimeter spot, right? So in effect, I'm getting two bases in that same 40 millimeter by 40 millimeter box. So I was looking at it like, okay, I'm halving the scale, right, of the bases. That's perfect for me. Okay, halving it on a 12-foot table, I could do the same battle on a 6-foot table. And if I wanted to up it to 8 foot, I could have like the entire battlefield, right? With all the divisions at Quatre Bras, that is. And then I was thinking, well, I have a 9-foot table. That's what I own. So I could do maybe some other battles or other like hypotheticals or whatever. But then I kind of thought about it and I was like, no, I probably just want to try to aim for a 6-foot table and make an 8-foot or a 9-foot table an expanded table. But the focus would be on a 6-foot table, which, so I had to change the ground scale a little bit to make sure that Quatre Bras would actually fit on a 6-foot table and encompass the entire battlefield. So I could do on a 12-foot table at a convention, I could pretty much have all of Waterloo. That's what I was thinking. Okay. So then I thought, well, how many figures do I want to do? Like a 6-base thing, 24 figures, you know, just like black powder. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. A 4-figure company works out very well on the table, and it works out really well when I'm working on like how many dice you throw when you're rolling to shoot and all that stuff, right? So I was thinking, now the downside is players might have the urge to form a line like this, right? And that is a single figure, let me rephrase that. That's a single base line. But this winds up being the same length as my 28 millimeter black powder, and I'm not saving any space. Plus, it's only single figure line. I want to make my lines look like that. I want it to be 2 figures deep. Plus, that halves the frontage. But it also gives me the 6-base math, right? Okay. So that's what I thought I was going to do. I'm still debating. I'm still master debating on this. Okay, so that's my standard battalion. And then there are some battalions that operate in a skirmish formation, right? So I decided, why not use a 4-figure base, just like I normally would use for these guys, but I'll put them on a 30 millimeter square, because what that'll do is it'll spread them out and it'll give them a little depth. This is only four bases, right? So if you took 4 bases here, the depth is the same. but the length is a little bit more because they're spread out. They're skirmishing. They're all over the place. I like that. But then here's the trick. I do a little mind game on the table, moving bases around, moving battalions around, measuring for command and control, measuring for ranges and movement speeds. I'm kind of doing a pre-alpha playtest with my own figures. And I'm realizing that these bases, these 15 millimeter depth bases, are not stable on the table, right? Well, they are, but when you're trying to push battalions around, I was noticing that some bases were getting caught in other bases, you know, like that, like this. I was noticing that on a hill slope, they would just fall over because 15 millimeters is just not enough depth to hold the figures up. It's okay. It's good, but it got my mind working. Okay. What if I took a 6-figure base just like this, and instead of making them 4 figures in a line, what if I put their 4 figures in a square, right? But then I don't want to expand the frontage. I want it to be this wide, and I want it to be this deep, because that's technically, I've done a little research to figure out what square footage, what the frontage is in actual feet or paces, and how deep it is, and how many companies would actually fit in how many inches. I converted it all, and this is accurate. So I said, okay, this 30 by 30 it's the same length, obviously, but it's too big. 30 millimeter frontage is too big. So if I wanted to cut these into 4-figure bases, that's where these guys come in. My last 2 battalions are small. They're small battalions. So I'm just going to take 6 of their bases. So look at what you get. You get the exact same, not this, obviously. You get the exact same length or frontage with a 20 millimeter base, because that's what that is. It's a 20 millimeter frontage by 30 millimeter depth. So this 20 millimeter, or let's take 2 figures. This is the same, exact same as that. This is wide enough that it's 2 figures wide. It's not going to tilt or tip or anything on a hill, and it's deep enough that going up a hill, it's not going to tip over. Look at that. I'm at 45 degrees. You know, it's not going to tip over. Where if I took one of these and put it at, tips over. This reminds me, these bases here remind me of Napoleon's battles. And that was one reason why I kind of didn't want to go that way. I don't know, maybe I was stubborn, or maybe I just felt like I was betraying my rules by utilizing like Napoleon's battles styled figure, but a line of 6 bases, 20 by 30, wind up being exactly the same as that. Now, I thought about this too. Large battalions are going to be 2 additional bases. That's why I got these out. 2 additional bases. If I added 2 additional bases to a large battalion, again, it's the exact same size. I'm doing small bases, small battalions are 4 bases, exactly the same size. Okay, but now, I keep looking over there because that's my streaming software. But now, it comes to other formations. This is something that I have to think about. On a 6 or 4 or 8, if I go into an attack column with the line bases, I was doing it like that, right? So you would have the 6 bases, 2 bases wide. Now, these guys, if I do an attack column, I would actually consider 3 bases wide. And this reminds me of Napoleon's battles. You can see that it's narrower. I don't oppose that. I don't oppose it being narrower. That's perfectly fine. But it's deeper. And I also don't oppose that. I don't care. Because an 8-figure attack column would look like this. But now an 8-figure attack column would look like that. The depth is actually the exact same, and the width is exactly the same. Attack column, exactly the same. Pull these 2 off. Pull those 2 off. Frontage, a little bit smaller here, which I'm okay with. I actually think I like that. 4 bases. Okay. A 4-base attack column looks like an attack column, but with these lines, it now starts to look like a line and not an attack column. And then if I was to do something like this, which is exactly the same size as this, now it looks like a march column. So I'm starting to lean towards these 4-figure bases like black powder. It's just that I thought about this. I can't do a 20 by 20, which is exactly half of a black powder base, but it's actually not. It's actually 1/4 of the base. Because if you go half this way and half this way, you're making your base 1/4 the size. And the downside is figures just don't fit on a 20 by 20. They do fit on a 20 by 25. That's Napoleon's battles. But I always thought in my mind that Napoleon's battles base was too tight, like the figures were all too tight together. But a 30 millimeter base like this, the figures are spread out enough that I like it. Okay. So what am I trying to say? I've already done half of Quatre Bras like this. Going forward, I think I'm going to do it like this. Yeah, I think so. Because this, okay, maybe not that one. This base translated into a skirmish base. It's very it's very it's easy to wrap your mind around. Okay? Also, game-wise, my game, you roll dice based on numbers of bases, right? You get like dice per base. And by putting all your bases in the front, it's easier to count how many bases you have shooting, right? I have all 6 bases shooting. But when you're like this, you've got some bases in the front, some bases in the back. This still works. Don't get me wrong. It's exactly the same size. But I'm going to actually get away from this. And I'm going to go towards this. Just so everybody knows. 20 millimeter frontage, 30 millimeter depth is going to be my official base for infantry. It was 40 by 15. And one of the reasons why I adapted the 40 by 15 was because of my ancient armies. Ancient armies, the heavy infantry uses 4 figures on a 15 by 40, and you put them in ranks. And those ranks, you can lose figures off of ranks because I'm playing Meg, right? So that works great. And I just thought it would work great in Napoleon's battles or in Napoleonics. And I'm feeling like it doesn't. I just wanted to share that with you. In my latest Napoleonic update, okay, remember, this is also cav size, right? So my cavalry will be like 6 of these bases. There's 2. Okay, well, hold on. That's 6 bases. So 4, you'd have like an extra base on each side because they're cavalry, right? They would occupy more space. With this, with a 6-figure battalion, you're getting a march column that's going to look and work properly, right? That's obviously a march column where that is not obviously, even 4 bases. That's obviously a march column. This is not obviously a march column. That could be an attack column. Now, I'm not sure if that is going to be a formation. I don't think it should be. Right? I'm thinking, because that equates to this. I'm thinking of allowing any battalion with 6 bases or more to be allowed to form up 2 bases wide to make a march column. So if you want to have a very short length march column for whatever reason, you could do that. But 4 bases or more can always use this as a march column. Now, one reason why I've debated not just immediately jumping on this, I pretty much just talked myself into doing it. It means I'm going to have to eventually, I'm not going to do it right away, but eventually I'm going to have to go back and rebase all my battalions to that, which is okay. Rebasing is like super easy and not very time consuming, but it just means I'm probably going to be throwing away a lot of bases. Now, if there is a way to play, and there probably is, I'll have to put some thought on it. If there's a way to play with either these bases or these bases, then, and there is, because with a 6 base battalion, the line is the same this way or this way. Attack columns, they're just going to be a little wider. There's nothing wrong with that. And then their march columns are going to be forced to be 2 figures wide, or 2 base wide. So I probably can still use these. I'll just have to have like a, in my own collection, that is, I'll just tell my buddies when we play that the differences. But going forward, this is how I'm going to base them. It doesn't save any space like on my shelf at all, because that and that are exactly the same. So that's not going to save any space. Now, something that went through my mind that went in one ear and out the other was to use the 30 millimeter base, which is still thinner than the 40, and it's still 30 millimeters deep, right? And instead of putting 2 figures across, I could have put 3 figures across, and it would give me like a 6-figure base, a lot like the Perry battalions, right? So it'll give 6 figures per stand, but that would just throw everything out of whack. That would mean a standard battalion would be with 24 figures would only be 4 bases, and if I wanted to go with 6 bases, then it would wind up being 36 figures instead of 24, and that's just a lot more painting, and it's unnecessary, and that extra 10 millimeters per base would add up on the table. So I decided to go with the 20 millimeter frontage, which, FYI, is also the frontage of Napoleon's battles. Napoleon's battles is not metric, it says it's 3/4 of an inch, but a 3/4 inch is 20 millimeter. 20 millimeter, 3/4 inch. Okay, 20 millimeter might be just a hair bigger, but that's fine. And the length is supposed to be 25 millimeters, but these are 30 millimeters. So could they be used with Napoleon's battles? I don't see why not. You know, just as long as all of them are based the same way, I don't see a problem with it. But that's not my goal. I could, if we wanted to play something in Napoleon's battles, I could pull the Napoleon's battles out. I could pull these bases out. We could go and we could play. But the plan is Marshals and Generals. 20 by 30. 24 fig battalions. Except unless it's small or large, then that varies. Yeah, and that's another thing. That 6-figure base, if I did a large battalion, then if I did a large battalion, that would be 8 bases times 6. That'd be 48 miles. That'd be a whole bag of miniatures just for one battalion. That's large. Not doing that. Now, another thing I thought about is just something. I thought about using an artillery base, which is 40 millimeter frontage and 30 millimeter depth, right? And putting 8 figures on it. Because that would be the same as that, right? That and that would wind up being the same. And that would mean I would have 3 or 4 bases for a battalion, right? So you're looking at, or 2, a small battalion, a normal battalion, and then a large battalion. And that didn't, you can't arrange them enough to make other formations if you've only got 3 figures. I thought about, like in Napoleon's battles, that's an attack column. Okay, maybe, but it doesn't look right. Okay, large battalions would still look good. 4 base battalions would look great. But then if you ever got to a small battalion, it wouldn't be able to form. That would be a march column. And then that would be a line. Where's the attack column? So I just decided against it. I also thought, just because all battalions are 6 bases, right? That's pretty much the standard. I thought about making 2 large bases and 2 small bases, right? So in a line, I could do something like this. I could have 2 large bases and 2 small bases, making a line. And if I went to an attack column, I would just take the 2 small bases, put them back there. And then if you went to a march column, you would just do that. I thought about that because and it would be a whole lot less bases to move around. You'd have these 2 large bases with 8 figures each, and then the 2 small bases with the 4 figures. And then if you had a large battalion, do 3 large, and then 2 individuals, because then you could just put these back to back. Just like that. Actually, a large battalion, you could just do 4 large as far as I could tell, because you don't have to split it. You could just do 4 large bases. Yeah, I did consider that, and that is still on my radar. But the small battalions would have to be, would have to still be the individual. They would still have to be the individual bases, and even then, I can't really form an attack column with 4 bases. Not like that. But with these, you can with 4 bases, because it's just that. There's too many advantages with this base system over this base system that I'm going to stick with this. Okay. Off topic. A little bit off topic. By the way, these are the 61st Regiment. I went ahead and finished them up on my on my little blackboard here. You can see there's this 61st. They're 2 small battalions, and that's what these are. These are the 2 small battalions, 4 bases each. What am I clicking on? Right there, it's gone. Got it. Okay, yeah. So these are the 2 small battalions. Another thing, forming square. These guys, these guys should be able to form square with 4 bases, no problem, right? You got them pointing in every direction. That looks like a square. It's got a hole in the middle. It looks good, right? Napoleon's battles, what they did is they just say, just turn the back 2 ranks around and you've got your square. Okay, that looks good too. Plus, it occupies the exact same amount of space, because when you go like this, you gain a little bit of space that it occupies. But I'm also okay with that, because that is actually a square. If I had 6 bases, which is a standard, which is your standard battalion, and you go to square, it's going to have to be something like, trying to remember how I did this. 2 to the front. Two to the back, and 1 on each side. Or was it more? I don't remember how I used to do squares, but Napoleon's Battle says, just turn, yeah, I think that's right. Just turn the back rank around, you got a square, but an alternative was to take 1 base and turn them out. I know that kind of doesn't look like a square to me. I wonder That looks more like a square. But even then, I'd have to do some thought on it. I think 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and then 1 on each side. Maybe not sticking out like that. Or maybe sticking out like that. Or maybe put the back of the bases against each other like that, leaving a gap in the inside. Maybe. I don't know. That's not a square. All right. So, okay. So I still have to put texture on this, and I still have to grass this. And then once I do that, I might record tonight a Napoleonics video about my 15 millimeter project and how things are changing to this, showing off close-ups of all these guys and these guys, because these are 2 new battalions that I haven't showed off. Which has put my mind in turmoil when it came to, because I did so many like this and I was so committed to doing it. But I'm glad that I tested a little bit on the table, moving figures around on hills and stuff like that. Now I'm going to have to look at my buildings. Dang it. I'm going to have to look at my buildings to see if this organization should. But to see if that organization of bases is going to fit in one of my town sectors. Oh, goodness gracious. Town sector. Why wait? Let's just take a look right now. Well, this one it looks like it will with no problem. Yeah. If I can put 4 figures on that side. Yeah, even if I did that. And then I could have yeah, that'll hold at least 8 bases. That's good. But that's just one of many. I grabbed one that I thought had a smaller yard. I might have messed up. Let me see if there's any with smaller yards. Ooh, that one definitely. But most of these have bigger yards, it looks like. Wait, where'd all my town sectors go? Is that all of them? Huh. Okay, so this has got a weird shape to it. I would consider that in the town sector. I might or might not consider that. Yep, that's in the town sector. I can't put everything on every corner, but And even then, I could always turn this sideways over here, and that's no problem. I wonder if I could do 2 bases. So I could. Well, there's 8 bases in the town sector. I could probably get another base right. No, I couldn't. That's where the chimney is. Yeah, it fits in there okay. And I think this one is actually, I actually kind of looked around for something with a really small cross section, and this looks like it has it. Okay. It'll work. They'll still work on my town sectors. If you have any comments about my basing, positive or negative, or have any other ideas, throw them at me. I pretty much am locked in stone with this base. My roads don't have to be 40 millimeters wide. They can be 30 millimeters wide for horses and artillery. And now, since this is only 20 millimeter wide march column, that would fit on a 30 millimeter wide road, which I think all my roads are 40 millimeters right now. But that could change. I don't mind modeling. I don't mind changing. Changing, I don't have a problem with. As long as I'm changing for the better. You know what I mean? And I don't mind 40 mil. Oh, wait, we got some comments. Let's go ahead and read these comments before I close out the shop. Alan says, hi, enjoyed the video. Most interesting to hear the thought process. Yeah, all right, Alan, I appreciate you. Yeah, my mind is always, churning. Keeps me up at night. Okay, Reg, I've tried to equate a stand to a company. Yes, Reg, that's exactly what I'm going for. The one stand is equating to a company approximately, right? That's how I paint them. Like this whole stand is Grenadiers, you know, and like this whole stand is Voltigears, and like this whole stand has the blue pom-poms. So yeah, I do the same. I also equate them to approximately 100 men. Nothing is exact due to battle losses or reinforcements or whatever, but they're approximately 100 men, or 25 men per figure. Okay, Woody says, I was wondering, how do you base your miniatures? We just went over that through the video. So now if you're talking about how do I physically base them, well, I use Elmer's glue. I usually use Litco bases. I love Litco. You can get a thin enough base to make it look non-obnoxious. Like if I had a 30 millimeter or a 3 millimeter thick base, like I did for my 28 millimeters, if I had a 3 millimeter thick base on a 15 millimeter model, the base would be way too tall, right? Now I've tried, they have 3 thicknesses. They've got the 0.8, the 1.5, and the 3. The 0.8 is It's really thin, and it looks great on the table, but when you go to moving your models around, they have a tendency to, the flock, some flock, maybe not the static grass. I haven't really tried it with static grass, but some of my older flock, it's like Velcro. You try moving it around on the table, it sticks to the table. It's too low. The bases, when you push a base, like if you're trying to push a unit, sometimes your base will slide on top of another base, or when you're stacking them on the table, just organizing them, you might have a base like this or like that, and you'll never know because they're so thin. So I go in the middle, 1.5. These are 1.5s. 1.5 is the best, in my opinion, for 15 millimeter. They're thick enough that I can push them together on the table. They won't overlap. It's thick enough that the Velcro flock doesn't stick to the table, and it's low enough that it doesn't become obnoxious like it's being too tall. But I use Litco. I Elmer's them down, and then I will use a texture paint by either Vallejo or Vallejo or AK, texturing them, and then after that I'll apply whatever color flock or whatever. Now you can tell that this one uses medium green, and both of these have used the dark green. I actually am considering medium or dark green for my artillery. I think I'm going to do the KGL maybe on an alternate dirt color, or maybe the Hanovers on an alternate dirt color. I don't know. Or every battery have their own dirt color. But yeah, each battery is 2 figures, 2 cannons. That's a standard. That's 6 to 8 guns. Is 2 cannons. So if you have a 4 gun battery, then that would just be 1 base. And then if you had like a 12 or like a 12 gun battery, then that would be 3 bases. So you got your small, medium, and large battery sizes. And then of course the gun size. I am going to treat in my rules a battery to be 1 gun size. I understand like this has a 9-pounder and a howitzer, but it's not, there's 5 9-pounders and 1 howitzer, so that howitzer doesn't really have that much impact. I don't even know. It probably should. Maybe I'll figure out like British batteries as opposed to French batteries, because the British batteries only had 6 guns, and the French batteries I do believe have 8 guns. So should they get a bigger modifier to the die roll? I don't think so. I think the subtlety of those 2 guns have a minimal effect on shooting or whatever. So it's probably not going to affect how many dice. But it's already October. It's almost the end of October. It's almost November. And I want to have my rules finished by NashCon in August next year. I might be stretching it, but at least I've got the core rules pretty much hashed out. Now I just have to except for melee. Melee I'm still struggling with, but activations, orders for units, their movement, their shooting ranges, formations, morale for the Army and for the individual battalions. That's been worked out. Melee, pretty much 90% of it is worked out, but there's some like these little things that are like working on me that I have to flesh out. But that shouldn't take too much time. And then I have to go through all my armies and come up with my official stats for each battalion. Not like the 33rd versus the 40th. Those will pretty much have the same stats. But things like Brunswick Light versus French Line versus British Rifleman versus, each type of unit will have its own stat line. And that's going to be the last thing I work on, I think. What do we got? Alan, what else are you saying? You're saying, hi, I can't understand why you don't get more people watching. Thanks for all the effort you're making. Hey, no worries. I'm not a big... I'm not... Well, first of all, I'm not... I'm not trying to get... I'm not trying to get a ton of views. Let me just say that. I use this opportunity to kind of just share with people, because also, actually, I think I do get quite a few views. Like right now, it says I've got 39 views. That's only for this 2-hour time slot, right? But this video goes up on YouTube, and then over the course of the week, I'll have another 200 views. So if I get 200 to 300 views on a video, that's extremely good for me. I mean, I understand that miniature wargaming is not computer wargaming, and I also know I don't have big breasts, right? So I should wear some low-cut shirts, right? And maybe put a couple of balloons in here. No, I'm not. So I know what sells, but no, I do this because how do I? It helps me work myself through my thoughts, right? But it also lets you know how I... Hey, had an early shift, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it still cold out there?
Yeah, it's like still 50 degrees out there.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not too bad. It helps me, I'm not gonna say work through problems, because it's not a problem. Work through ideas, and it also lets me share with you guys where I stand in my project, because I'm a narcissist, I guess. I do this for me. So it also documents. That's why I do these project videos. It documents my project for me, because I'll go back and watch these videos, and I'll be like I remember when I was watching my Germanic army videos. I was doing a Germanic project in 28mm, which I'm not doing that anymore. But I go back and look at that, and I'm like, I can't believe that I painted like 120 figures. This was before I had this table. I was doing my work on this table alone, and I had this entire side of my table covered in German figures. And it's like a memory exercise because I go back and I see like what I did in the past. I went back and I watched, oh my gosh, I did an AWI Freeman's Farm painting tutorial, right, where I painted figures and showed people how to paint, which I don't use that method anymore. But I went back and watched and I'm like, wow, I did that. I did that method, which is still a good method. It's just, I just don't do it anymore. I have a faster way to do it now. That was slower and looked really good, but I need to get armies done. I can't be doing them one figure at a time kind of thing. And so it's good for me to go back and look at these videos. So honestly, I'm doing these videos for myself. And because I'm doing them, I could just record them and save them to my computer, right? No, let's put them out on YouTube. Let people see what I'm doing. If I get 1 view, that's great. If I get 500 views, that's better. But I'm not asking for views or whatever. Actually, that's not true. I think more views are better because how do I say this? Not because I get the views. I like more views because that tells me more people are hearing what I'm saying, and maybe it's helping them. Maybe they learn a little bit. Maybe they can expand their armies or paint a different way, or so I like the views because that tells me that there's more people getting value out of the video, not because I get anything out of it, because I really don't. You watch these videos and every now and then an advertisement will pop up or whatever, but that's not. It's pennies. I barely get any revenue off of advertisements. Advertisements are like, what do I do? I don't know. What do? I do at least 30 videos a month, maybe more. And not always on miniatures, but like computer gaming, role-playing games. I do a role-playing game every Wednesday night. So if you come out, you can watch my D&D game. We're playing a Greek campaign. I get some views on that. Not a lot, 20 views, whatever. I don't care. And then I do some computer gaming like flight sims or first-person shooters or whatever, Star Citizen or IL-2 or whatever. Get some videos on that. So I must do more than 30 videos. I'm going to say pretty close to 30 videos a month. And I maybe make $1 a video. That's probably right. Maybe $1 a video. Because it comes out to about $30 a month. That's pennies. I could not do a video and what am I losing? $30? But it's fun. It's fun to do the videos, and I'm glad to get the word out. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Reg, I did do an after action on my World War II game at NashCon. If you want, you'd have to go back a month or two, and you could watch that. I did an after action of NashCon itself, And then I also did like a little video on or included with that probably was the video on the World War II game. But just to give you a little heads up, it was very successful. Everybody loved the game. There was a lot of positive feedback, but there was one big downside. There's no way, and I figured this out, there is no way ever for the Americans to win that scenario. That scenario is designed for the Germans to win. And I went through all the different reasons why that is. And the Germans have too far to cross, like a no man's land. They have too far to cross. They don't get all their army at the beginning. It gets piecemealed in a little bit at a time. So right there, that's a bad thing. They crossing no man's land is dangerous. So not only does it slow them down, where I don't even think in the course of a 4-hour period, even if no one was shooting at them, could they make it to the other side. The road is mined. The road has roadblocks. The Germans have a pre-plotted artillery spot, which they could put right in the middle of the American deployment, and all the Germans have to do, and first of all the Germans are dug into entrenchments. All they have to do is sit. They don't even have to. They're going to get enough orders every turn to fire enough of their guys to pin the Americans in the open where they just can't cross the field. There's just no way. And I went through all of that, and I even nerfed the game. I nerfed the Germans by saying that their machine guns on the causeway only go 30 inches like a normal machine gun, and the causeway, you only roll once for a mine, even if you use 2 movement actions. So it's supposed to be rolled after every action. So there, I just halved the effectiveness of the mines by allowing them to move their double move and only rolling once. Same thing in the swamp area or the flooded area. I reduced the casualties. Instead of a D3, it's just 1. Okay, so with all of that, the Germans still slaughtered the Americans. There was no way. And I looked at the and I basically tried to figure out, is there a way for the Americans to win? Right? Okay, maybe because there's no time limit, let me rephrase that. There's no turn limit. There's only a time limit. So you could take 100 turns, as long as it fit within that 4-hour slot, you could do that. So they could just sit in their deployment zone and just wait for all their troops to get on the table, right? So basically don't launch the attack prematurely. Wait for your troops to show up. I thought about this. I was like, okay, they could wait, but they can't, because they're under constant artillery barrage by the Germans. And so if you sit there, you're going to be blown up by the artillery. And then if you charge out, you die in the swamp. So they couldn't do either way. The Germans, because they don't have to move and they don't have to think, all they have to do is shoot, it becomes super easy. And then I thought about it. Another thing, There's 3 German platoons. Now I'm playing this scenario straight out of the book. There's 3 German platoons. And I looked at the Americans, and I'm like, there's really only 2 American platoons. And a tank, but it doesn't come in till late. So they're attacking with 2 platoons against 3 platoons that are dug in. There's no way. And I thought about it. Okay, let's take one of those German platoons out of the game, right? Remove them, make it 2v2. Then it's a little bit better. And then reduce the effect of the swamp, or reduce the effect of the causeway or the machine guns. Or I think there should be no machine gun death rule on the causeway. I think there should be none of that, because that is basically free machine gun fire on the causeway that the Germans don't have to give anybody orders for. Basically, you just, whenever you move on the causeway, you roll a die, see if you take any casualties. It shouldn't be like that. The Germans should be forced to give their machine guns orders and actually shoot on the causeway. So I think I'm just going to take that rule out. I don't mind the minefields. That's fine. And I don't mind the swamp slowing them down. I think that's fine. But maybe it shouldn't cause a casualty. Maybe it should just slow you down. Because those casualties are causing pins which stop the Americans. Yeah, so it's a horrible scenario. The way it was written. So I look at history, and it says the Americans ran across the causeway. They got all the way to the other side. They stormed the church and the German positions, and the Germans had to withdraw off the table. How is that possible with the scenario as it's written? There's no way. So it has to be rewritten, and that's pretty much the map, the miniatures. The people loved the rules and the way it played and all that. I even told the Americans before they started, I said, "You're going to lose this battle, but let's have fun doing it." And they did. They all had fun. So that was good. But I have a video up of the convention. I have a video up of my after action. I did not record a video of my game, unfortunately. I brought the tripod, the camera, and everything was ready to go. I just never hit record. That's my bad. Okay, I'm looking at these guys. A lot of them are probably dry enough. Maybe not that guy. But this is the last one. These guys are dry enough for me to start texturing. So, and it's already 1:30, and we normally go from 11 to 1. So I have a video I need to edit and upload. It's of me playing IL-2 last night. I'm playing in a P-51. I was doing some escort. What was I escorting? Some B-25s, I think. This is May 1944, so it's right before D-Day. We're flying across the channel, and they're dropping bombs. And I got into a dogfight with some, I think they were 190s. All right, Reg, appreciate it. Hey, that's one more view. No, this is something I tell people. Share the video. If you learn something today, or if you like my channel, show other people my channel, because if every one of you did that, that would double my views, right? So if there's 20 people and you share it, I'll have 40 people watching. That would be great. Even if only half of them decide to watch, that's still 60, right? So but yeah, I'm going to have to do some research on the rocket artillery to see how big it is. Hey, why don't I do that right now on camera? I'm not working on rocket artillery because that's a Waterloo thing and not a Quatre Bras thing. Is rocket artillery considered horse artillery? I think it is. There it is. Winyat's troop. The battery consisted of 5 6-pound guns and a rocket section. Okay, so it's one base. Kind of like that howitzer. You know how they have the... Okay, so I could do a one base rocket. Launched 52 rockets. Okay. Probably none of them hit anything. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that's where we're going to end it. And thank you for coming out and watching this video. We normally end at 1 o'clock, but sometimes we go over. And also sometimes I will start early if I am up and ready to go and I got things to do. I'll just turn the camera on. So basically what I'm saying is hit the notification icon so that whenever I do go live, you'll be notified. And if you want to see my D&D game, we play that at every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central Time. We play for about 4 hours, and it is D&D, so there's fantasy, there's monsters, and stuff like that. But it's in Greece on Earth in ancient periods, so it's kind of a mixture between, I'm trying to keep everything more realistic and down to earth, literally. All right, guys. I'll catch you next time.